Well, there's a Riyadh Comedy Festival. I don't know if you heard about that. This is true. There's a Riyadh, Saudi Arabia Comedy Festival. I mean, how do you even promote that? You know, like, from the folks that brought you 9/11, 2 weeks of laughter in the desert. Don't miss it. I mean, the same guy that's going to pay them is the same guy that paid that guy to bonesaw Jamal Khashoggi and put him in a fucking suitcase. But don't let that stop the yucks. It's going to be a good time. Full disclosure, I was not asked to perform at the Riyadh Comedy Festival, so it's kind of easy for me to take the high road on this one. Easy to maintain your integrity when no one's offering to buy it out, you know.
Saudi Arabia is set to host a major comedy festival in Riyadh, spanning late September through October, featuring some of the biggest names in international stand-up. Bill Burr, Tom Segura, Bobby Lee, Aziz Ansari, Hannibal Buress, Dave Chappelle, Jimmy Carr, Pete Davidson, and others are on the lineup. The event is being promoted as part of Saudi Arabia's broader push to showcase itself as a cultural hub under its Vision 2030 initiative. Yet beneath the glossy marketing lies a controversy that has ignited debate across comedy circles, podcasts, and social media.
Guys, it's that special time of year. It's the Riyadh Comedy Festival. And all of your favorite comedians are performing at the pleasure of Turki Al-Sheikh. And he is the head of the entertainment authority over there. And he has so many people thrown in prison because they tweeted stuff he didn't like about the soccer team or whatever, that there's a wing of a prison nicknamed after him where they hang people by their heels from the ceiling. Now, there's a lot of drips, killjoys, and dweebazoids who are saying, oh, they shouldn't do comedy over there because it's whitewashing a regime that just in June killed a journalist and killed Jamal Khashoggi and played a big role in 9/11. Shut up. Name one comedian who hasn't whored themselves out to a dictator. Sinbad in the 80s would go perform for dying Nazis hidden out in Argentina. Mr. Bean would do private shows for Idi Amin. Me and Bibi Netanyahu have collaborated. I pitched him a prank show called The West Bank, where it's hilarious. Like, people in masks show up and eject people from their homes, and they're terrified. They just traumatize these families, and then they can never come home. And it's been going on for years, but this season has been like action-packed. And it's a prank show, but there's also a true crime element because it violates international law and people have been killed a lot. Let's not get our, moral panties yanked up, wedged high in our rumps. Human Rights Watch has been begging the comedians not to participate in the whitewashing of the horrors that are ongoing in Saudi Arabia. Ugh, what a cockblock Human Rights Watch is for comedy. Let's have some fun, let's have some yucks, and let's not look too closely at anything. I'm a hypocrite too.
Human rights organizations have argued that the festival is an attempt to whitewash the country's poor record on free speech, political dissent, and the treatment of journalists. The event happens to coincide with the anniversary of the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, and Saudi courts continue to sentence writers and analysts to death for expressing opinions deemed offensive by the state. These realities cast a long shadow over the festival, raising questions about whether participation amounts to complicity in image laundering. Marc Maron has become one of the most vocal critics of the festival and of comedians who accepted invitations. In a recent appearance, he questioned how performers could even promote such an event given the political context. He highlighted the contradiction of comedians, long champions of free expression, choosing to appear in a country where speech can carry severe consequences. He also suggested that the decision to perform boils down to money, remarking that integrity is easy to keep when no one is buying it out.
There's just a moment in the documentary where you're just talking about, it's like, people say I'm jealous. It's like, yeah, of course. It's like somebody gets paid $100 million to, it's like, of course I'm going to feel something.
It's not that I want $100 million necessarily. No. It's just sort of like, who would get that kind of money for that?
Why is anybody getting it?
And don't get me started about the Riyadh Comedy Festival. All these huge acts, I can name names, but you can just go look it up, were offered complete ridiculous amounts of the bloodiest money on the planet.
Yeah.
I can maintain this position because one, I wasn't asked.
Yeah. Of course. That's always with me.
And I don't think I'd go. I know I wouldn't. But it's like, does history not matter at all? I mean, literally, it's like the Riyadh Comedy Festival from the guys who brought you 9/11. Do you know what I mean? It's like, is that just nostalgia? Your check's being signed by the guy that chainsawed a journalist.
What fuels the backlash further is the irony surrounding Bill Burr. Years ago, he mocked the idea of comedians jetting off to dubious gigs for a payday, turning the concept into material about hypocrisy and selling out. Now he is doing exactly what he once ridiculed, a reversal that Maron and others see as emblematic of how financial opportunity can trump principle.
Because no one ever raises money for terrorists, right? I guess, unless you do a comedy show in like Saudi Arabia. Isn't that what they do? You know, that's how they raise money with their filthy fucking oil money.
Not all comedians are following suit. Shane Gillis reportedly declined to participate, citing discomfort with the politics involved. Tim Dillon initially agreed to perform but was allegedly dropped after making jokes critical of Saudi leadership and human rights abuses.
My agent called me and he goes, you said on Joe Rogan that you were performing in Abu Dhabi and you're actually performing in Dubai. They're cities and they have a rivalry. And I go, dude, who gives a fuck? What do I stop? I made a mistake. This is not a malicious slander. It's a mistake. He goes, well, they're very angry and they sent an email that you need to be controlled. I said, well, good luck. Whatever. I don't have to do it. I don't care. And then he called me a few days later and I thought he was going to talk about the Kimmel thing. But he called me and he said, they heard what you said about them having slaves. And I said, I was being positive about it. I was defending them. He goes, well, I know that. I know you were defending them. I said, I was defending them for having slaves. I literally said, slaves are probably hard workers and, for the most part, agreeable.
The debate over the Riyadh Comedy Festival underscores a broader ethical tension. One side argues that by performing in Saudi Arabia, comedians lend legitimacy to a regime that suppresses free speech and punishes dissent, effectively becoming part of its propaganda machine. The other side insists that art and comedy transcend politics, that reaching audiences in restrictive societies can be valuable, and that the decision to perform should remain a personal one, not a moral referendum. Ultimately, the controversy is not just about one festival, but about what it means for comedians to claim authenticity and freedom of speech while accepting lucrative opportunities in places where those very freedoms are denied. Maron's criticism, paired with the visible contradictions of figures like Burr, has ignited a discussion that stretches far beyond the comedy world. It forces fans and performers alike to reckon with whether art can truly remain separate from politics, or whether participation in events like these inevitably carries the weight of complicity.